Hello guys, welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite countries. We're going to talk about Hungary, also known as Magyarország. And here are the topics we're going to cover in this video. Firstly, we're going to start with a brief overview of Hungary. Then we're gonna talk about what matters, residence permits in Hungary for EU and non-EU citizens. Then we're going to talk about getting a residence permit in Hungary for income-generating activities, which is one of the best options in Central Europe if you are a non-EU citizen. Moving on to getting permanent residency in Hungary, then the last step, which is how to get Hungarian citizenship, and to end the video, the advantages and disadvantages of living in Hungary. And before we start the usual talk, you already know it. If you want to travel, move, or invest abroad, hit the like button, check our other videos, book a consultation, go with me, the link is in the description. And most importantly, subscribe! Let's start! Hungary is a country in Central Europe, and in terms of history, it has a pretty interesting and turbulent one. In the past 100 years, Hungary went from being a part of an empire together with Austria to a socialist state under heavy influence from the Soviet Union to the present republic that it is today. Needless to say, being right in the middle of Europe, everybody always wanted a piece of Hungary. Today, things are mostly peaceful in Hungary and in the region. Hungary is now a full European Union member. It joined the bloc in 2004 together with a number of countries such as Slovakia, Slovenia, Poland, and some others. It is also a member of the Schengen area, meaning that in normal circumstances there is freedom of movement for the people inside this area. Unlike some of its neighbors, Hungary does not use the euro currency, which brings a number of advantages and disadvantages that we will discuss in this video. The Hungarian currency is the forint, and it has been in circulation since 1946. Presently, Hungary is a highly developed nation, member of the EU and the Schengen area with a stable economy and a good quality of life. There are many reasons for people to move to Hungary, may it be for business purposes or even to retire and enjoy the idyllic landscapes of the country. Now let's talk about how to move to Hungary and how to get a residence permit in the country for EU and non-EU citizens. Let's start with EU citizens. If you are an EU citizen, you can just come to Hungary without much planning. If you want to stay more than 3 months in the country, you need to register your stay. You will need an address to register your stay, but that's a pretty straightforward process. You don't need to get a visa or deal with embassies before actually coming to Hungary. At the time of your application, you will get a card regarding your registration in Hungary, and a few weeks later you can expect your address card by post, which is also an important document in Hungary. Now let's talk about non-EU citizens. If you are a non-EU citizen, however, in Hungary, like in any EU country, it is much harder to actually get residency. It is, however, easier to get a residence permit in Hungary as a non-EU citizen than in some other countries nearby such as Slovenia and Austria. The most common types of residence permits in Hungary are for employment, or if you have a family member in the country. For employment, it is easier to get a residence permit if you are working in some sector with a high demand, like IT. There are many companies in Hungary that will actually sponsor a visa, since there is a shortage of workers in many sectors of the economy. One huge advantage of Hungary, which exists also in some other EU countries, but not in all of them, is if you come from a visa-exempt country and you find some reason to stay in Hungary, like finding a job or for your studies, you can apply for a residence permit directly in Hungary. You don't need to apply for it through the embassy in your country of origin. This is only possible for passport holders from visa-exempt countries, such as the UK, the US, Canada, Australia, some countries in Latin America, and some in Asia. Now let's talk about options if you are an independent businessman, an investor, a digital nomad, or if you want to live a passive life and retire in Hungary. The easiest way to get a residence permit in Hungary as an independent person is by opening a company in the country. This is a viable way to get a residence permit for a non-EU citizen who is planning to reside in Hungary regardless if he intends to be a self-employed person or running a business with employees. There are a few requirements that you should meet as well, such as presenting a business plan for your activities, or if the activities have already started, a balance sheet of your company's operations. You will also have to prove you're qualified to run the company and show you have sufficient funds to run the company in Hungary and cover your stay at the same time. Considering all EU countries in the Schengen area, Hungary is one of the easiest places to come as an independent businessman, as the requirements are much lower than in most other countries in the bloc. This is also a viable solution if you are a retiree, as you can buy real estate in the country and rent it through your company, guaranteeing the income for the company to run and at the same time your residence permit in the country. If you stay long enough in Hungary on a temporary permit basis, you will be able to apply for a permanent residence permit. In most cases, after residing 3 years in Hungary, you'll be able to apply for a permanent residence permit. But that is the National Permanent Residence Permit. If you want to apply for the long-term EU residence status in Hungary, you will need to live 5 consecutive years in the country. The permanent residence permit has a number of advantages compared to the temporary one. The main advantage is that you don't need to reside in Hungary most of the year in order to renew it. The renewal is also not necessary on a yearly basis if you have the permanent residence permit. And if you have lived in Hungary long enough, you can consider to become a citizen of the country. Getting Hungarian citizenship may be a great thing, especially if you do not possess any other European citizenship. In normal circumstances, you will need to live in Hungary for 8 years to be eligible for citizenship. There are some other requirements, such as passing a test on basic constitutional studies. There are some exceptions that may reduce the time requirement as well. One advantage of Hungary compared to some other countries in the region is that the country allows dual citizenship in most cases, including for those going through the naturalization route. People of Hungarian origin are in many cases also eligible for Hungarian citizenship. So if you have some Hungarian ancestry, there are good chances of getting citizenship by descent. And now finally we're going to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of living in Hungary. One of the most obvious advantages of living in Hungary is its location. The country is right in the center of Europe. Apart from its geographic location, Hungary has one of the best transport infrastructures on the continent. So, if you live in Budapest, the capital of Hungary, you are just a short train or car ride to cities like Zagreb in Croatia, Vienna in Austria, Bratislava in Slovakia, Prague in the Czech Republic, or Kraków in Poland. Budapest also has one of the busiest airports in Central Europe, with direct flights to many cities in Europe, as well as destinations in North America and Asia. The second very important advantage of living in Hungary is the cost of living. While groceries have virtually no price difference compared to other countries in the region, many aspects of life in Hungary are cheaper than in the neighboring countries. That is especially the case for real estate, entertainment, and all kinds of services, like going out for a cup of coffee or going to the dentist, for example. Another interesting advantage of this Central European country is that it is part of the EU and especially part of the Schengen area. Having a residence permit in Hungary will allow you to travel visa-free to all countries in the Schengen area, and the fact that the country is in the European Union, which in itself has its advantages and contradictions, brings some level of stability to the country. Another very important advantage of Hungary is that it does not use the euro currency. The fact that the country uses its own currency, the forint, allows Hungary to have a much lower cost of living than other countries in the region, as I have mentioned earlier. Now to the disadvantages of living in Hungary. The first one is regarding taxes. Taxes can be a disadvantage in Hungary, but they also can be an advantage, depending on your type of income. Some types of taxes are high in Hungary, such as VAT, currently at 27%. VAT in Hungary is among the highest in Europe, but corporate and personal income taxes in Hungary are lower than the average in the European Union. So the tax system can be a disadvantage, but at the same time an advantage as well. It will mostly depend on your individual situation. Another disadvantage of Hungary is the Hungarian language. The Hungarian language, unlike the language of most countries in Europe and all countries bordering Hungary, is not an Indo-European language. Hungarian is a Finno-Ugric language, like Finnish, Estonian, and some regional languages of Russia. The structure and grammar are pretty different from most European languages. So if you are a native speaker of any European language like English, Spanish, or Russian, with some exceptions, learning Hungarian will be more difficult than learning most other Indo-European languages. Another disadvantage that may be a problem for some is the fact that Hungary is a landlocked country. So if you really enjoy being at the seaside, Hungary is definitely not for you. On a good note, Hungary is just a few hours drive from beaches in Croatia and Slovenia. Another important factor that can make up for the seaside is that Hungary has Lake Balaton, which is a favorite among locals during summer. Finally, the country is also known worldwide for its amazing thermal baths in Budapest and various parts of the country. The Hungarian currency can also be considered a disadvantage for some. If you earn your salary in Hungarian forints, you will be slightly more subject to currency instability than if you earn in dollars or euros. The forint has been losing value against the US dollar and the euro steadily in the past decade. So this is something you should bear in mind if you're planning to move to Hungary. At the same time, as I have mentioned when talking about the advantages of the country, this is also good as it contributes to keeping the cost of living in Hungary lower than in some of its neighbors, using the euro currency such as Slovakia and Slovenia. So you have to consider whether the currency can be an advantage or a disadvantage in your individual case. So that's it for today's video. Write down in the comments section below if you have been to Hungary, if you like Hungary, if you like to move to Hungary, or if you have already moved to the country. And to end the video, the usual nonsense. If you want to travel, move or invest abroad, hit the like button, check our other videos, book a consultation call with me, the link is in the description, and most importantly, subscribe. See you next time.